The cameras were already rolling when the first sirens echoed through the quiet Atlanta night. Flashing red and blue lights tore across the dark street like a warning the world wasn't ready for. Within minutes, whispers turned into screams across social media. One name began trending at lightning speed: Rasheeda. Fans were shocked, confused, terrified. And as the rumors exploded, one question burned hotter than any other: was this really a suicide attempt? Inside the Frost household, chaos was unfolding behind closed doors. Producers scrambled. Phones rang off the hook. Messages poured in faster than anyone could answer them. And at the center of it all stood Kirk, silent, unreachable, refusing to answer the media as reporters crowded the gate demanding the truth. Cameras flashed. Microphones were shoved forward. Voices shouted her name. But Kirk said nothing. Not a single word. The silence felt louder than any confession. Sources claimed Rasheeda had been found alone, emotionally shattered, surrounded by unanswered texts, unanswered calls, and a night filled with unbearable pressure. Insiders whispered that emotions had been building for weeks. Tension in the marriage, whispered arguments, late-night disappearances, things fans never saw on screen. Now suddenly, everything that had been hidden in the shadows was crashing into the light in the most terrifying way possible. As the ambulance pulled away, neighbors said they heard Kirk's voice break for the first time. Others swear he never moved at all. Different stories, different sides, no clear truth. The family was left divided before the night even ended. Producers were stunned, friends were shaking, and fans across the world sat frozen behind their screens, refreshing timelines every second, praying for updates that refused to come. And then came the message that shattered everything: an alleged leaked text, sent only hours before the incident. Words filled with pain, accusation, betrayal. Was it a goodbye message? A cry for help? Or something far more complicated? Once that message hit the internet, the narrative twisted instantly. Some blamed Kirk. Some blamed the pressure of fame. Others pointed fingers at old wounds that never healed. Meanwhile, Kirk remained unreachable. Every attempt to get a statement was met with the same response: no comment. Not from his team. Not from his family. Not from him. And as the silence dragged on, speculation grew darker. Why wouldn't he speak? What was he afraid of revealing? And what truth was lurking behind that locked front door? Friends began choosing sides. Some rushed to defend Rasheeda with tears and emotional posts. Others stayed quiet, their silence louder than any denial. Fans were shocked. Emotions ran high. Timelines turned into battlegrounds of blame, love, and disbelief. And with every passing minute, the story only grew more twisted. This wasn't just another reality TV rumor. This felt different, heavier, more dangerous. And as the world waited for answers, one thing became painfully clear: the night everything exploded had only just begun. The hospital hallway was so quiet it felt unreal, like the whole building was holding its breath. Fluorescent lights hummed softly above, as nurses moved with tense urgency, their faces tight, avoiding the cameras that had already begun to gather outside. Inside one private room, beyond layers of locked doors and guarded whispers, Rasheeda lay unseen, her condition wrapped in secrecy while the world outside burned with speculation. No official statements had been released yet, only fragments, only rumors, only fear. And in the center of that storm stood Kirk, pacing alone in a sterile corner, his phone buzzing endlessly in his palm, while he refused to pick up a single call. Reporters crowded the hospital entrance like vultures circling uncertainty. Microphones lifted, questions fired into the darkness. Is Rasheeda stable? Did Kirk know this was coming? Is the marriage over? But Kirk never appeared. His silence only fed the flames. Media vans lined the street. Live broadcasts began airing within the hour. And just like that, a private crisis turned into a global spectacle. Inside the Frost family circle, emotions ran high in a way no camera could fully capture. Relatives whispered in small clusters, some angry, some terrified, some accusing. One family member sobbed openly in the waiting area before being pulled aside by security. Another stormed out, slamming the glass doors so hard even strangers felt the impact. The family was already left divided, and the night was only beginning. Behind closed doors, producers whispered among themselves, torn between concern and the terrifying reality of what this meant for the show, for the brand, for everything built on years of image and storyline. Phones buzzed non-stop with executives demanding answers no one had yet. Every angle of the building was monitored. Every shadow outside could have been Kirk stepping out to speak, but he didn't. Friends began to arrive quietly, slipping through side entrances to avoid the cameras. Some held their heads low, others moved with visible anger. One close friend sat trembling in a chair, whispering over and over, "She warned us, she warned us." But when pressed for what that meant, she fell silent, eyes wide with fear, refusing to say more. And then the first leak hit. An anonymous account posted screenshots that sent shockwaves through social media, alleged messages between Rasheeda and Kirk from earlier that day, long strings of unanswered texts, blue bubbles stacked one after another, questions, accusations, pain laid bare in digital ink. "Why won't you just tell me the truth?" One message read, "I stood by you when everyone said I was stupid. Don't make me regret that." Another said, "I feel like I'm losing myself in this." Fans were shocked. Timelines erupted. Emotions ran high across every platform. Thousands of people analyzed every word, every timestamp, every typing pause as if decoding a tragedy in real time. Some defended Rasheeda fiercely, others turned on her with cruel skepticism, but the loudest outrage was aimed straight at Kirk. Still, he said nothing. Inside the hospital, Rasheeda's room remained restricted. No visitors except medical staff. No phones. No statements. Just the steady beep of machines and the unbearable weight of unanswered questions hanging in the air. One nurse was overheard whispering that the emotional stress alone had pushed her to the brink. Another claimed this had been building for months. No one agreed on the details. Everyone agreed the pressure had become too much. Meanwhile, Kirk sat alone in a separate room, head bowed, jaw clenched, unreadable. At one point, a staff member approached him and gently touched his shoulder. "You should call your wife's mother," she said quietly. Kirk didn't respond right away. He stared at the floor for several seconds before finally nodding once. When he stood, his legs shook slightly, betraying a weakness he refused to show the cameras. The call did not go well. Witnesses later claimed raised voices echoed through the hallway. Rasheeda's mother was reportedly furious, blaming Kirk without hesitation. Words like "you broke her" and "you pushed her too far" were allegedly shouted through the phone. Kirk's voice was said to have cracked only once, when he replied, "You don't know everything." After that, the call ended abruptly, and with it, whatever fragile peace remained inside the family circle shattered even further. Outside, the frenzy only intensified. Bloggers began posting timelines of the marriage's most painful moments. Old interviews resurfaced, past arguments replayed on loop. Every old rumor found new life. Fans dissected body language from episodes filmed years ago as if it were all evidence leading to this very moment. What once seemed like scripted drama now felt like prophecy. Then came the second leak. This one was colder, shorter, more frightening. An alleged note, posted anonymously, said to have been written by Rasheeda earlier that evening. No graphic detail, only raw emotion. It spoke of exhaustion, of betrayal that felt like drowning, of feeling invisible in a life watched by millions. And one line that chilled everyone who read it: "I feel like I am screaming and no one can hear me." The internet exploded. Fans were shocked. Some cried on live stream. Others raged in comment sections. #PrayForRasheeda began trending within minutes. Celebrities posted vague messages of support. Reality TV stars from rival networks suddenly found their voices, calling for compassion. And yet Kirk remained silent. His refusal to answer the media became its own controversy. Reporters speculated wildly. Was his silence legal advice, guilt, shock, or something darker? Some claimed his team had instructed him not to speak. Others said he simply refused. A source close to production whispered that Kirk had thrown his phone against a wall earlier when a reporter somehow got through. No one could verify it, but everyone believed it. Inside the Frost inner circle, one explosive confrontation unfolded behind the scenes. A longtime family friend confronted Kirk in the hallway, her voice sharp and shaking. "You think silence is protecting you," she allegedly said. "It's destroying her." Kirk reportedly snapped back, "You don't know what I've been protecting her from." The friend fired back instantly. "No, Kirk, you've only ever protected yourself." Security stepped in before the argument escalated further. But the damage was done. Another crack split the already fractured foundation of loyalty surrounding him. As hours dragged on with no official update, fans began to fear the worst. Every siren passing the hospital triggered panic. Every ambulance door opening sent speculation spiraling. Viewers around the world glued themselves to screens, waiting for a sign, any sign, that Rasheeda was still fighting. And then finally, just past midnight, a brief medical update was leaked. Stable but under heavy observation. 2 words. Only 2. But they sent shockwaves of relief through the internet. Fans cried with cautious hope. Prayer emojis flooded every timeline. Family members, inside the hospital, collapsed into chairs, some sobbing openly for the first time. But even with that fragile hope, the storm was far from over. Because stabilization did not mean healing. Inside a private waiting room, Rasheeda's sister confronted Kirk face to face for the first time since the incident. Her voice reportedly shook with controlled fury. "You still won't say what happened," she said. "You still won't tell us what pushed her." Kirk looked at her for a long moment before replying quietly, "Because if I do, everything you think you know will change." Those words sent a chill through everyone in the room. What truth was he hiding? What secret was powerful enough to keep him silent while the woman he loved lay in a hospital bed? No one had those answers yet. But one thing was already clear. The night had not only endangered Rasheeda's life, it had exposed the deepest fractures in her marriage. And as dawn approached outside the hospital windows, the battle between silence and truth was only just beginning. And from the way the families had already chosen sides, from the way friends whispered in corners and reporters sharpened their questions, it was obvious that when Kirk finally spoke, or if he ever did, the fallout would be devastating. The first hint of dawn crept through the narrow hospital windows, turning the sterile white walls a pale shade of blue. But no one in the waiting room had slept. Phones lay drained on laps. Empty coffee cups lined the floor. Every face was carved with the same mixture of fear, anger, and exhaustion. Rasheeda remained unseen, her condition guarded by layers of privacy and hospital protocol. The uncertainty was suffocating. And still, Kirk said nothing. Outside, the crowd had doubled overnight. Fans stood shoulder to shoulder with reporters, some holding handmade signs, others clutching phones as if live streaming grief itself, prayers mixed with protest, support mixed with accusation. The Frost family name was no longer just trending, it was dominating the world's attention. Inside, behind closed doors, a quiet storm was breaking within Kirk. He sat alone again, hands folded as if in prayer, eyes hollow and unfocused. A producer approached cautiously and asked if he was ready to speak to the public. Kirk didn't look up, he only said, "Not yet." Those two words ignited a fresh wave of speculation online within minutes. Every blog twisted them into theories. Every outlet framed his silence as evidence of something darker. Then, unexpectedly, a voice from Rasheeda's past emerged. An old friend from before fame posted a long emotional message accusing Kirk of years of emotional strain placed on Rasheeda. She described nights of crying phone calls, secret fears, and a woman who felt trapped between loyalty to her husband and loyalty to herself. The post ended with a haunting sentence: "She kept choosing love over peace, and now look where that choice took her." Fans were shocked all over again. Some supporters clung tightly to that narrative. Others pushed back, calling it attention-seeking. But the damage was done. Another layer of doubt had been sown in the public mind. Inside the hospital, news of the post spread quickly. Rasheeda's mother reportedly exploded with rage, demanding Kirk address it immediately. She accused him of letting outsiders control the narrative, while her daughter lay fighting alone. Kirk faced her without raising his voice. "Nothing I say out there will stop what's happening in here," he said quietly. "Only she can." That answer shattered whatever fragile patience remained between them. Family members began openly choosing sides. Some stood protectively around Kirk, insisting no one truly knew the pressure he had faced behind the scenes. Others rallied around Rasheeda's mother, furious that Kirk's silence felt like abandonment. The family was left divided in a way that would not be easily repaired. Words were exchanged that could never be taken back. Meanwhile, more messages leaked. This time, the screenshots were between Rasheeda and someone listed only as unknown. Long conversations filled with coded language, emotional tension, and what many interpreted as proof that Rasheeda had been carrying an unbearable emotional secret. No one could verify the sender. Some claimed it was a confidant. Others whispered it hinted at something more. Kirk saw the screenshots on a producer's tablet and went completely still. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Kirk quietly stood and walked out of the room. Security followed, concerned by the sudden shift. He moved down the quiet hallway with purpose, his jaw set, his breathing shallow. When he reached the end of the corridor, he stopped and leaned against the wall, pressing his forehead into the cool surface as if trying to ground himself. One guard later whispered that he had never seen a man look more haunted. Whatever those messages revealed, they had shaken him deeply. Outside, bloggers interpreted his sudden movement as guilt. Headlines exploded within seconds. Kirk cracks under pressure? Mystery sender exposed. Secret relationship. None of it confirmed, all of it consumed. Inside Rasheeda's room, she remained unconscious, drifting in and out as doctors carefully managed both physical and emotional trauma. One nurse later described the atmosphere as heavy with unspoken sorrow. Machines beeped steadily, curtains stayed drawn, and the woman at the center of the storm slept through it all, unaware of the chaos raging in her name. Closer to noon. A quiet moment arrived when Rasheeda's sister was finally permitted to sit by her bedside for several minutes. She held her hand tightly and whispered through tears, promising her she was not alone. As she left the room, she collapsed into Kirk's arms without a word. It was the first physical contact between them since the incident. For a brief moment, the war paused. But peace never lasts long in the glare of cameras. A reporter managed to shout a question into the hospital lobby as Kirk passed through with security. "Did your infidelity lead to this?" Kirk stopped for half a second. The silence stretched. He turned slowly toward the voice. His eyes were red, raw with sleeplessness. And then he said only one word. "No." The single syllable sliced through the noise like a blade. Fans were stunned by the brevity. Supporters praised him for finally speaking. Critics mocked the emptiness of the denial. But the word echoed across every network. For the first time since the incident, Kirk had acknowledged the world. Still, it was not enough. By afternoon, new accusations emerged, this time from a former business associate who claimed he had witnessed violent arguments between Kirk and Rasheeda months earlier. He described yelling, slammed doors, and a woman who looked terrified of losing herself. The claims went viral within minutes, though no proof accompanied them. The internet did not wait for verification. Inside the hospital, raw anger erupted once more. Rasheeda's mother confronted Kirk again, louder this time, accusing him of a pattern of emotional destruction. Kirk's voice finally rose in response. "You think I haven't been trying to hold this family together?" he snapped. "You think I haven't been carrying things you don't even know about?" She fired back instantly. "Then tell us the truth." The word hung in the air like thunder. Kirk went silent again. The room froze. Everyone waited. Producers held their breath. Family members leaned forward, desperate for answers. But Kirk shook his head slowly. "Not yet," he said. "Not while she's still fighting." The confrontation ended without resolution. Hours later, as twilight fell once more, doctors issued a guarded update to the family. Rasheeda had regained brief consciousness. She was confused, disoriented, emotionally fragile. Visitors were still restricted, but she was alive. The relief that swept through the waiting room was overwhelming. Some family members dropped to their knees. Others wept openly. The internet erupted again with cautious celebration. Fans were shocked with joy this time. Yet beneath the relief, the tension remained unbearable, because even as Rasheeda's condition stabilized, the foundation of her life outside that hospital bed was in ruins. Rumors ran uncontrolled. Secrets hovered like dark clouds. Loyalties shifted by the hour. And Kirk still stood at the center of it all, frozen between speaking and staying silent. As night fell for the second time, a producer pulled Kirk aside with urgent news. Someone from Rasheeda's medical team had unauthorized access to information, and another leak was expected soon. Whatever came next would be impossible to stop. Kirk closed his eyes slowly. He knew the storm was far from over. And somewhere, deep within the layers of whispered messages, broken trust, and unspoken confessions, a reality waited to surface that would change everything they thought they knew about this marriage. The only question left was whether that reality would save them, or destroy what little was left. The leak came faster than anyone was prepared for. Just after midnight, when exhaustion had dulled even the sharpest nerves inside the hospital, a private medical update appeared on a shadow blog known for paying insiders. It contained no technical details, no diagnoses, only a chilling confirmation that Rasheeda had briefly asked for one person by name when she stirred. Not Kirk. Not her mother. Just one name that no one outside the inner circle expected to see. And within minutes, that name was everywhere. Fans were shocked. Timelines exploded again. Theories fired like gunshots in every direction. Who was this person to her? Why would she call out for them in her weakest moment? And what did Kirk know about it? Inside the hospital, panic spread through the frost circle as phones lit up all at once. Producers rushed down the hallway. Family members whispered urgently. Kirk read the post on a staff member's phone and went pale. For the first time since the night began, his control visibly cracked. His hand shook as he passed the phone back. "That wasn't supposed to get out," he murmured. Those words alone fueled another wildfire. Rasheeda's mother confronted him immediately, her voice breaking with disbelief. "Who is that?" she demanded. "Why is my daughter calling another man's name?" Kirk lifted his eyes slowly. "That's not what you think," he said. "Then tell me what it is," she fired back. Kirk opened his mouth to speak, then stopped. His jaw tightened. Once again, he chose silence. That silence shattered the room. Rasheeda's sister turned on him with a fury no one had seen before. "You keep saying we don't know everything," she shouted. "But you refuse to tell us anything. How do you expect us to trust you now?" Kirk tried to respond, but the words tangled in his throat. Security stepped in as the confrontation escalated, separating them before it turned physical. Meanwhile, outside the hospital, the crowd grew louder, angrier, more desperate for answers. Some fans defended Kirk with blind loyalty. Others screamed his name with hatred pierced through tears. Signs were lifted into the air, reading "Tell the truth, and she deserves better." Reality had blurred into protest. Inside Rasheeda's room, she drifted in and out of consciousness, unaware that her whispered name had ignited a global firestorm. When she briefly opened her eyes again, her sister was at her side. Rasheeda tried to speak, but her voice came out weak, barely a breath. Her sister leaned closer, tears falling freely. "You're safe now," she whispered. "You're not alone." Rasheeda's eyes fluttered, confusion clouded her face, and then she slipped back into sleep. Outside the room, Kirk waited, his back pressed to the wall like a man bracing for impact. When the sister stepped out again, their eyes met, heavy with unspoken questions. She didn't yell this time. She didn't accuse. She simply said, "Whatever you're hiding, it's tearing her apart." Those words struck deeper than any scream. As the second night stretched toward morning, another figure arrived unexpectedly at the hospital. Someone no one had announced. Someone producers hadn't anticipated. Someone whose presence alone confirmed that the leaked name was not a rumor. The tension in the hallway changed instantly. Whispers followed this new arrival like a ripple through water. Heads turned. Security tensed. Kirk saw the figure from across the corridor and froze. For a long moment, neither moved. Time seemed suspended. Then Kirk took one slow step forward. Their eyes locked. Years of unresolved history sat between them in that silent stare. No words were exchanged at first, only breathing. Only the unbearable weight of everything unspoken. A producer moved closer, sensing something explosive was about to unfold. Rasheeda's mother watched from down the hall, her hands clenched tightly together. Finally, the newcomer broke the silence. "Is she alive?" The voice was low, restrained by emotion. Kirk nodded once. "Barely," he replied. The word barely shifted the air. Anger flared instantly in the newcomer's eyes. "You promised you'd protect her," he said. Kirk's jaw tightened. "You promised you'd stay away," Kirk shot back. The producer stepped between them quickly before the confrontation escalated further. Security closed ranks. But the damage was already done. Whoever this person was, his presence confirmed what many fans already feared. There was another story beneath the story. And Kirk had been carrying it alone. Inside the waiting room, Rasheeda's family erupted in frantic questioning. Who was he? Why was he there? How long had this connection existed? Kirk refused to answer. The producer ordered everyone to lower their voices as hospital staff threatened to remove the entire group if the disturbance continued. Simmering fury replaced shouting. Outside, cameras captured the arrival from afar. Blurry footage went viral instantly. Speculation turned savage. Headlines wrote themselves. Bloggers dissected body language frame by frame. Fans were shocked all over again. As dawn broke for the second time since the incident, doctors prepared another update. Rasheeda's vitals remained steady, but her emotional distress was severe. She was not to receive any upsetting news. No visitors, except immediate family. And no media contact under any circumstances. The problem was, reality no longer cared about conditions. Inside the family circle, another fracture formed when Rasheeda's mother demanded Kirk leave the hospital. She accused his presence of causing further harm. Kirk refused. "I'm still her husband," he said. "Until she tells me otherwise, I'm not going anywhere." The room went quiet. No one moved. The challenge hung in the air. Rasheeda's sister finally spoke, her voice trembling but firm. "Being her husband means protecting her," she said. "Not drowning her in secrets." Kirk stared at the floor. "You don't understand the kind of storm I've been trying to hold back," he replied quietly. But the storm already happened, she said, and she paid the price. Those words shattered what little strength he had left. Kirk turned away, his face twisted in silent anguish. Hours later, the medical team informed the family that Rasheeda was being moved to a quieter wing for psychiatric observation and recovery. The shift was delicate, highly controlled. Security cleared the hallways. The transfer happened without cameras, without announcements, like a ghost slipping through the building. When the room was finally empty, the weight of everything they didn't say lingered heavier than anything they had. Outside, rain began to fall, streaking the camera lenses, blurring the city lights into trembling reflections. Fans still waited, reporters still shouted. But inside the hospital, a hollow quiet followed the transfer. And in that quiet, Kirk sat alone again. The newcomer had already been escorted away by security, his presence deemed destabilizing. The families remained separated, the producers retreated to whispered strategy meetings, and Kirk stared at the floor, replaying every choice he had made that led to this moment. Somewhere beyond those walls, Rasheeda slept under careful watch, surrounded by machines and sterile silence, her life stabilized but her heart still in ruins. And with every unanswered question, every secret not yet exposed, the distance between her and Kirk grew wider. The world waited for the truth. But the truth was not ready to be born. Not yet. The third day began with a silence so heavy it felt like the entire city was holding its breath. Overnight, the rain had washed the streets clean. But it did nothing to wash away the tension that wrapped itself around the hospital like a second skin. Reporters were still there, camped outside with exhausted eyes and relentless questions. Fans stood scattered in small groups, some praying, some arguing, others simply waiting for anything to change. Inside the hospital's quieter wing, Rasheeda lay awake for the first time since the transfer. Her eyes opened slowly, confused by the unfamiliar ceiling, the soft hum of machines, the faint scent of antiseptic. Her throat felt raw, her body heavy, as if every muscle carried the weight of unslept years. A nurse noticed the movement and rushed to her bedside, speaking in a gentle voice meant to soothe. Rasheeda tried to speak, but only a whisper escaped. The nurse leaned closer and reassured her that she was safe, that she had been resting, that her family was nearby. Rasheeda's eyes filled with tears at the word family. Outside her room, the family was anything but united. Rasheeda's mother sat rigid in her chair, arms crossed tightly over her chest, refusing to acknowledge Kirk even when he passed within feet of her. Rasheeda's sister hovered near the door, torn between loyalty and exhaustion. Every few minutes she glanced back at Kirk, then away again, as if afraid of what she might say if she met his eyes for too long. Kirk stood alone near the far wall. For the first time since the night of the incident, he had slept for nearly a full hour in a chair with his head against the wall. The brief rest did nothing to ease the shadows beneath his eyes or the tension clenched in his jaw. He woke too, the sound of doctors approaching, already bracing for something he couldn't yet name. The doctor spoke calmly but firmly. Rasheeda was stable, physically improving, emotionally fragile. She would require intensive observation and therapy. Visitors would remain limited. Stress must be minimized. Someone asked the question everyone had been avoiding. Can she see her husband? The doctor paused. Not yet, he said. Not until she asks. Those 4 words hit Kirk harder than any accusation up to that point. Not until she asks. For the rest of the family, it felt like validation. Rasheeda's mother let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. She needs peace now, she said coldly, without looking at Kirk. Not confusion. Kirk did not respond. Inside Rasheeda's room, she slowly began to understand where she was. Fragments of memory returned in disjointed flashes. The night air. The weight of exhaustion. The ache in her chest that had felt too big to carry alone. She squeezed her eyes shut, as if pushing the memories back. Underwater. When she opened them again, her sister stood quietly at the foot of her bed. Rasheeda's lips trembled. Her sister rushed to her side instantly, clutching her hand. You're here, she whispered. You made it. Rasheeda tried to speak again. This time, only 2 words escaped her shaking lips. Is he? Her sister hesitated. The pause said everything. Rasheeda closed her eyes slowly, tears slipping out and sliding into the pillow. Her sister wiped them away with trembling fingers, whispering assurances that she was not alone, that everything would be okay. Neither of them truly believed it. Outside the room, news of Rasheeda's consciousness spread rapidly through the inner circle, then outward through carefully leaked fragments. Within minutes, the internet exploded with cautious relief. Fans were shocked again this time by hope. But hope did not erase suspicion. As the day unfolded, another unexpected voice entered the narrative. A former castmate appeared on a live stream, claiming that Rasheeda had confided in her weeks earlier about feeling emotionally trapped and isolated. She spoke softly but with conviction, saying Rasheeda felt unheard in her own marriage. She claimed Rasheeda had been afraid of public humiliation more than anything else. The livestream racked up hundreds of thousands of viewers in minutes. Inside the hospital, Kirk watched the clip alone on his phone. He did not deny it. He simply turned the screen black and stared at his reflection. Meanwhile, across town, executives, producers, and attorneys scrambled to contain legal and reputational damage. Emergency meetings were called. Contracts were reviewed. Public statements were drafted and redrafted, only to be torn apart again. No one knew what the right move was. Every potential statement risked igniting another fire. Kirk's legal team urged him again to remain silent. For once, he considered ignoring them. The pressure had reached a point where silence no longer felt like protection. It felt like cowardice. But the secrets he carried were not his alone. Speaking would not only shatter him, it would pull others into the storm who had not yet been named. And still, the weight of Rasheeda, lying in a hospital bed because of everything left unsaid, crushed him from the inside out. That afternoon, Rasheeda requested water. A tiny, ordinary request that felt monumental in its simplicity. The nurse helped her take small sips. Her hands shook slightly as she held the cup. After a few moments, she whispered another request. "My phone." The nurse hesitated and then gently explained that for now, all outside contact was restricted. Rasheeda's eyes darkened with quiet fear. She didn't argue. She simply turned her face away. That small movement told her sister everything. Rasheeda was terrified of the world now, what it had become without her. Later that evening, Kirk finally made the decision that would alter everything. Against his attorney's warnings and without consulting producers, he requested a private meeting with Rasheeda's sister. Just the two of them. No cameras. No family. No security inside the room. After tense deliberation, the hospital allowed it. They sat across from each other in a small conference room, the sterile table between them feeling like a courtroom dividing line. Rasheeda's sister folded her arms tightly, bracing for lies. Kirk's hands trembled as he clasped them together. For several moments, neither spoke. Then Kirk exhaled slowly, as if diving underwater. "There are things you don't know," he said quietly. "Things I kept hidden because I thought I was protecting her." Rasheeda's sister's voice was sharp. "You weren't protecting her. You were protecting a version of yourself." Kirk flinched. He nodded. "You're right," he admitted. "And that mistake may have cost me everything." Her eyes widened slightly at the vulnerability in his voice. "Then start telling the truth," she said. Kirk looked down at his hands. And for the first time since the night everything shattered, he began to speak. He spoke of pressures behind closed doors, of conflicts never aired, of choices made to preserve an image rather than a marriage. He spoke of a secret that had grown too large to contain, wrapped in silence and fear. He spoke slowly, carefully, leaving out names but revealing enough for the gravity of it to land. Rasheeda's sister listened without interrupting. By the time he finished, her face had gone pale. "You should have told her," she whispered. "I tried," Kirk replied. "I didn't know how, without destroying everything." "You destroyed it anyway," she said softly. Those words struck him like a verdict. The meeting ended without forgiveness, but it ended with understanding. When Rasheeda's sister stepped back into the hallway, her entire posture had changed. She looked at Kirk differently now, not with rage alone, but with sorrow and something close to reluctant comprehension. Rasheeda's mother noticed immediately. She demanded to know what had been said. Rasheeda's sister shook her head. "It's not my secret to tell." That only fueled more division. Night fell again, heavy and slow. Inside her room, Rasheeda slept lightly, drifting in and out of uneasy dreams. Her breathing remained steady, but her brow furrowed as if even sleep offered no refuge from her thoughts. Outside, Kirk waited. Every hour that passed felt like an eternity of judgment. Shortly before midnight, the nurse finally approached him. "She's awake again," she said quietly. "She asked for you." The words seemed unreal. "Asked for you." For a moment, Kirk didn't move. Fear, hope, guilt, and relief collided inside his chest all at once. His legs felt unsteady as he followed the nurse down the hallway. Rasheeda's mother turned sharply at the movement, her eyes blazing with protest, but the nurse raised a hand firmly. "She asked for him," she repeated. The room grew silent as Kirk reached the door. Inside, Rasheeda lay propped against pillows, her complexion still pale but her eyes alert. When she saw him, her gaze hardened not with anger, but with exhaustion. The air between them pulsed with everything they had not yet said. Kirk took a slow step forward. "Hey," he whispered, Rasheeda studied his face for a long moment before replying. "Don't lie to me anymore," she said quietly. The words cut deeper than any accusation yet. Kirk swallowed. "I won't," he promised. But whether that promise could still save them remained a question neither of them yet knew how to answer. If this emotional story moved you, now it's your turn to speak. Do you believe Kirk's silence protected Rasheeda or pushed her closer to the edge? Share your thoughts in the comments. Like this video for support, subscribe for more exclusive stories, and stay with us as this drama continues to unfold.